Hello, everybody. This is Peter Palmiati of Human on Studio, and winter has arrived. All right, let me get rid of my silly hat. You like it? It's green on the inside. It's one of my favorite colors, other than purple. Um, so I think this might be interesting to some people. Um, I have a ton of crappy pencil sketches. Um, and I'll get to that in a minute. Just a brief backstory for those that haven't been watching every single video. um, I took some time off just for survival life's sake, and it was like 7 months where I really didn't do that much art at all. And upon returning, I took on some commission work, and I really wasn't uh, feeling like my work was any good. Uh, like that. Normally, in the past, when I took a break, and this is more before my career, um, when my interests changed, and then I would sit down again and do some art. I felt my, my skills improved simply by life experiences in between. Um, this time I didn't, it felt like I backpedaled, and I feel like my skills weren't there, and it was a lot of frustration on just trying to get back to where I was. And so I've been, you know, at that point, I was, made a point to draw a lot more. Um, but it was really the last 2 months to where I said, okay, I'm just gonna sketch, 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 and that's what I've been doing. Hardcore this past month, um, and now it's almost next year. If you could see, I already got my new calendar up. Um, hold on a minute. I can't pause this, but hold on. Okay, I'm back. I know. I should really edit my videos, but okay. So I got this in the mail the other day, and this is the art of Art T-Bear, uh, which is, I believe, how he likes his name pronounced. Um, he was on my podcast years ago, and he did a Kickstarter for Oodles of Doodles, and these are a lot of commission work he has done, and um, some what's up, kitty? Um, some creator and stuff in the back as well. Uh, Let me show you. Really, really gorgeous, just pencil work and the finished pieces you could see there. So that's just a sampling, but this is very inspiring work of art, and he's such a tight, gorgeous penciler, and I mean he's known for his inks, and those are hardcore tight as well. And this is a sort of modern update of his character White, which was an image book, black and white. Is just one of the characters. Black and White was a book from the '90s and the image days, and he updated the character and made a cover image. Um, One other thing, yeah. So that is a 2018 cover. I mean cover calendar that came with it, and this is let's see, that's Art T Bear, um, and this is actually the cover without the dust jacket. It's a little shiny, shiny, but I think it's it's such a gorgeous cover. Um, Really, he has I think it's the same colorist for all the pieces. I could be wrong, but that's just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. Anyway, it's stuff like his work and just going online and seeing other people's pencil work. Understand that I've been an inker most of my career, and um, when it comes to my penciling, I feel like my inking is, when I'm at my best, it's a solid 8 or 9. I don't think I'm the best inker out there, but I think I'm definitely you know capable of doing some excellent work. Although at the same extent, I don't feel like I've done my most excellent work in the last couple of years. But maybe I'll do another video and dive into that. But yeah, so my penciling, I always felt like, it's a 6. Like at my best. Um, and I got all these projects I want to do and comics I want to do. Um, and I really want to work on my penciling. And if I'm going to be do commission work, it's like I want to be happy with what I do um, as I do it. And yeah, so I did a couple of commissions, and it really wasn't feeling it. Really, just nothing was going right. You could have bad days, but I just kept working, kept working, kept working, and it wasn't happening. Um, so hence, I decided to just focus on sketching. And mind you, um, I'm gonna be flipping through a gallery soon. Um, some of these pieces are what I consider really nice. Most of it was just I would wake up and just sketch, and you know this isn't all the sketches I did. This is just the better ones, but there's still a lot of not so great ones here. But I know I learn a lot from each of them, and I sort of I scanned them all, and I have them on my computer just to flip through if I'm looking for certain effects and whatnot. So yeah, let me just start the sketch journey. Um, Hello, and why aren't you working? Oh, here we go. Okay, so um, I really didn't clean these up too much, but I sort of focused on certain pieces. Um, but at my worst, and this is also true when it comes to my inking. Like, I go in way too heavy, but I feel like I'm searching for something, like searching for certain effects, or just how far can I take things, and like with this particular one, it's like his face is way too dark, and his nose is like a blob of black. Um, but I felt there's really some neat lines going on here, um, and I'm really attracted to something. Maybe I'll be able to do one day. I'm not quite there. Um, if you're a fan of Art Art Adams, man, just the flow of his lines throughout a whole piece is so spot on. Um, where it's a lot of parallel lines. You can get a little of that, like the lines going off the top of his head match the shadow behind him, sort of go along the lines of his shoulder, and really, I want to do an insane piece somewhere down the line where it's a lot more, a lot more of that, but more well done. Okay, so this is like, I do two things. I do straight head-on shots, or I do side views, and that's just normally what I fall into. Um, and it's not an excuse, but I made it a point to enjoy myself while doing these sketches. So I wasn't really worried about, um, breaking too much new ground. Although, it's like drawing any sort of anatomy is not normally what I do. It's more like I draw a bunch of heads. Um, but oh, I'll mention a couple of things. Like, I've gotten a couple of messages from fellow artists. One of them was an artist was impressed with how my spotting blacks was improving, um, and you know that's probably true within my pencil work. I haven't you know my inks, like, I've done 1,000 books, but penciling, barely scratched the surface of five or ten, let's say. If you add up all my drawings or whatever. Um, but spotting blacks as an inker, I've worked on plenty of inkers where their their work wasn't super tight, and even some pencilers was like almost outlines, and I've done it plenty of times where I would go in and spot blacks in the background, or on the figures, or just add more lighting drama to the drawings. So when it comes down to it, I know I'm capable of doing accurate, spotting of blacks, to add, you know, atmosphere and dynamic. Make a plain drawing more dynamic, and also focus the eye on whatever it is that needs to be focused on. And so yeah, I mean, when it comes to my penciling and it's like it's more um, like in writing. It's I'm gonna forget the term now. One word leads to another. I was just thinking of it the other day, but when I'm penciling, when I'm sketching, um, it's I don't more often than not, I'm not mapping anything out. Proper way to draw is to know what you're going to draw in the first place, and do a little skeleton. Uh, this is a circle. This is a head. And, you draw a line. That's the body. You draw the arms. Draw the legs, and sort of flesh it out. Me, I just go in and automatically like on the left drawing, I probably just initially drew in the shadows on the arm and formed the body around it. It's not necessarily the proper way to make a drawing, and it leads to more errors than anything else. Um, Stream of consciousness is in writing, and that's sort of how I sketch. I just really uh, have a lot of fun and just follow the line and follow the lines, the shadows and just sort of it's almost like carving. Just carve out a little section here, a little section there, and smush it together. Um, these aren't horrible drawings. Obviously, is something very wrong with the face on the right. Um, but if I was to do a finished drawing based on this, uh, it would give me a lot of insight into the shadows and the cross hatching, and would make something a lot more tighter and focused, and it would just be better. It's not an excuse. It's just you know, it's like I knew I was running into a problem that was almost like art block, um, to where I felt like I was a worse artist. So I knew if going forward, if I just um, drew for fun more than anything else, that I would break out of it. So here's a collection of faces. And just playing around with shadows and cross hatching and just having fun and like I said, I'll look back on these and really pull specific things out of them. Like I really like the top left head, both this sort of scratchy feathering and the shadows on that really worked well. The other ones are okay. I could probably pull something from those as well, but it's really the top one is I thought was pretty cool. And yeah, so like the bottom face, it's not much of anything. But I'm always trying to, what if I go in with and play around with just a slightly different kind of feathering, more graphical. Didn't necessarily work, but the top right one was me. Um, just okay. Yeah, I gotta draw more bodies, and the anatomy is definitely on my list of things to work on, cause I'm horrible at times. Unless I'm at the top of my game, which you're not always. Sometimes it's just work, and you just gotta punch it out. But I really got to learn more about the skeleton and the muscles, and so I got a collection of art books, kind of different things, and I have access to a whole bunch of other ones. So January is really going to be, if you're my patron, I mentioned going into a sort of a boot camp mode. Um, it's going to be a lot of learning for me next month, which it's almost next month. It's already the 29th. Like I mentioned, is my 2018 calendar. And if you're curious what that little blur is in the background, that's the sketch from my Facebook profile picture currently at the moment. Um, it's something I did, and I went one mention of that is I really went and worked the pencil and worked the pencil and worked the pencil and worked the pencil, and I love the results, and I wish I could show that one up close. I don't have it handy anywhere. It's in my files buried somewhere. Um, but it's where I did, I almost did it like I was painting, but with pencil lead. And it really works so well, and I'm so proud of that piece. And fortunately, it's just a sketch, and now it's hanging on my wall. Um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, the main thing was to get out of my rut and really just work on penciling every day, and eventually, if you draw, it's practice, and you get better. Um, and just randomly drawing, sometimes I really like did better pieces than not. Sometimes I just did horrible. Like this face is on the guy, and the big guy is not so great, but it's almost there. The body is okay, but it's like my typical body, and the arm is a little squished. I like the face on the left, even though the shadow is crap on that one, but it's a little reminiscent of either Walt Simonson kind of look to it, or Mobius. These are nothing really, but I know I need to draw more females. My females are kind of crappy since I have such a love for detail. I can overdo females for the most part. I mean, it's pretty easy just to you know do do what's there, do the details, do just draw eyes, draw a nose, draw a mouth. Keep out um, 90% of the shadows, and that's more of a female face. Anyway, my next video I'll be uploading will be part one of my collection of Shisember drawings. So you'll let me know if I continue to suck. Um, so what else we got? Okay, so yeah, the one on the right is me, you know, like drawing a figure how I think it should be done, like trying to draw the little form of a figure, and like mapping it out first. Although I know my the foundation of how I draw a figure really has to be deconstructed before it could be built up again. Because I know I'm getting a lot wrong. Not I'm not necessarily trying to draw a figure how you would see it in real life. I'm trying to do a cartoon version of that. Um, and sometimes, more often than not, I might try to accent certain things, and making it less and less like how a form actually is. You know, uh, but on the face on the left, I like a lot of that. It doesn't sort of blend perfectly together, but there's a lot of cool shadow work in that. And yeah, my faces seem, tend to be kind of exaggeration as well. Um, I find more and more that I like to do white eyebrows. Seem to be more graphically pleasing to me. It's the way I can, really punch down on the pencil to the paper and draw shadows around the eyebrows. I mean, is like the his left eye has a black eyebrow and his right eye is kind of a white outline. Um, so it doesn't match in that way. Here, there's more of the face in the middle, and that's like my attempt at a female face with a lot of heavy shadow. And it almost works. Face is a little heavy chin area, but I like some of that the shadows that are there. Um, Nothing special about the other ones necessarily. Um, Look, there's an attempt at me drawing a thumb. I kind of like the left face that's looking right. Um, that's like I said, that's the typical thing I do, and I'll do that for years and years to come. It's just fun to just let your turn your brain off and doodle and just play with lines and weights and shadows and um, yeah, the face to the right of that, the shadows are kind of neat. I like when I should learn terms more, but there's lights on both sides of the face, and the shadows are centered. Um, yeah, so that was me trying to do that, and the face on the right. It reminds me a little of like Frank Miller Ronin kind of effect, line wise. Not totally, but yeah, just playing around, having fun, and I will say this. It was 2 days ago. I realized I've been sketching all day, and it was late at night, quite late, and I realized the day flew by so well. And all I was doing is sketches like this. I have gotten to the point where I'm comfortable drawing, and I could pull out a better drawing than not. Um, if I keep focused, and it was just really, really, really pleasant to be drawing all day. And mind you, it's like when I was an inker, I didn't want to draw at all. It was so much work to be inking all day. I just wanted to take a break from it all. And at the time, I guess I was playing more video games or whatever. Watching movies. I always did. Here, these are kind of, the one on the right is kind of horrible, and yet, I love the way, you can use the side of a pencil and not necessarily do lines, but do gradation of shadow, and I've fallen in love with drawing in pencil, and the one in left is like incredible heavily feathered. Um, like none of that was shadow. I kind of remember it. None of that was shadows it grew out of just heavy feathering and feathering and feathering and feathering, and then just lightly using the side of the pencil to sort of even the block areas a bit. And yeah, I would just love that effect. Although, comic comics are done standardly. There's a pencil, there's pencils, then it's ink, then it's colored, and But I'm thinking, maybe for something somewhere down the line, I might just do finished pencil drawings. This is me doing another female, and sort of, and, it's like it's inspired kind of by manga. The eyes are off. I'll mention now that like I had a couple of other different comments from artists. Um, One of which is like I draw noses too big, and that's been blatantly obvious to me. It's not like I didn't notice that fact. Um, but it's like I'm stretching. I personally don't have a small nose. And I'm an Italian nose, I guess. um, but I probably love too much when it comes to, and not this particular one, but like just shading on a nose, shading around a nose, really like, you know, just throwing shadow everywhere, and feathering, and the bigger the nose, the more area I get to play. Um, but it's something, it's like I don't want my all my characters to have giant noses. Uh, but the other thing, and this is also another artist pointed out, is like my eyes are off more often than not, and I agree with that. And maybe that's like my in real life, my left eye is almost useless. I see with it, but I don't focus on detail with it. So it's really my right eye that guides everything I do, which is why I'm a lousy baseball player because my perception is all thrown off. Um, but I challenge you to a game of b-ball. Um, I'm kidding. Um, so yeah, like my eyes tend to be off. This It's like actually the eyes, the not the pupils, but the eyes are relatively okay. It's the pupils that are off. One's looking in one direction, one's looking in another direction, and that's what my eyes do. And but that's not what I'm talking about. Like I have a tendency to drop one of the eyes, meaning like one eye is higher up than the other, in my drawings, and something I have to be more aware of, and also just the spacing. That was the other comment the artist pointed out that my spacing isn't always accurate, um, and that has more to do with I think it looks like a relatively realistically drawn face, which is not to say that it's drawn realistically, but proportionally it's drawn realistically. Looks a little weird to me. It's like if you have a face like this, right? There's like a lot of side to everybody's faces, and it seems like wow, that's a lot of open, wide space. It should be, there should be something there. The eye should be further out, or the ears should be closer in, or it just seems a little wacky. Um, but that's just my artistic eye perception. But yeah, this girl's face I kind of like. The ear could have been bigger as well, and the nose is too big, and the mouth could have been wider, and yada yada yada. But I also like extremely exaggerated drawings. Like, I grew up looking at a lot of fashion art in newspapers and magazines, and that always, inspired me, and I guess some of it pops up every now and then in my art. Um, so this is a face, and like I mentioned, I tend to do been doing of late. I've been doing like white eyebrows, uh, which I'm not 100% sure that will work um, in a finished comic. We'll see. We'll see. But it's fun to draw it that way. It's easy enough to fill them in with black or whatever. But it's relatively okay. It's not spot on, but then yeah, just me trying to draw my figure work, and obviously foreshortening is a lot to be desired. It's supposed to be a girl, but it doesn't necessarily look like one from the back. Uh, and one on the right could be the young boy or a manly looking girl. I don't know. I think I was going for female there too, so not exactly spot on, um, but fun drawing. And this I love, um, just weird cast shadow and not having pupils in the eyes. I kind of always loved that about earlier comics, like where characters put on masks and all of a sudden their pupils disappear. Uh, it happened. um, this was sort of inspired by the female in the latest Star Trek Beyond movie, whereas she was white with heavy black, um, you know, tattoo. I'm assuming on her, and I sort of have it as something that gets feathered out, on her cheek there, and just playing with a deep shadow that fades out is fun. This, mm, not not sure if I was if I was using a photo as reference on this. Kind of seems that way, but I want to say I'm pretty sure I didn't. Um, I would have loved to shift the light on his chin a little bit, and it would have been pretty much a lot more accurate. I feel like the ear could be a little bigger, and it's a little off, but I like a lot of the feathering and shadows on that. This one heavily reminds me of Marilyn Manson. Again, it's like the eye on the right, his left eye is a little more open than the eye on the left. His right eye. Um, so the eye's a little weird. It's definitely one of those giant noses that I just draw for fun. It's not, I'm not trying to sell this piece. But I had a lot of fun with the shading and yeah, just using the side of the pencil. I like a lot of the atmosphere of what I created there. Then some more drawings. The guy on the bottom, is going for a more open just heavy feathering style, which is to me is reminiscent of Moebius, and a lot of other artists. But it's it's the example I always think of. Except for like under his eye and his nose and whatnot, where I went heavy shadow mostly. The guy on the right is like, yeah, if I copied the eyes exactly, either the one on the left or the one on the right, it would have been a better picture. But I do like a lot of shadow work and feathering on that. Figure work above, just trying to draw more figures, even if I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Um, Now, this was something specifically I did. I did another example of it, and it just got lost in the minutia of my files or whatever. So I did this new one. Um, what I what I did once and tried to replicate here, which I think I did, um, was I drew with a ballpoint pen the bare essence of a couple of faces. And what I did is then go in with the side of a pencil and add a lot of shadows and did some pencil feathering on top of it. And I really love the effect of that. I'm not sure if I'll use it, where I'll use it, um, but it really tickles me somehow, and I love the effect of it. And we'll see. You never know. We'll see. Might wind up as a panel in one of my comics one day. So this, okay. I love robots. Uh, that's on the one hand. On the other hand, I suck at drawing robots. So this was my attempt at drawing a robot, and I really like a lot of it, but it doesn't necessarily come across really as a robot per se. It's sort of a, eh. I mean, the neck sort of defines it as a robot, I guess. There's little pieces of it. Looks more like he's got some armor, or she's got some armor, or very confused what sex it is. um, but yeah, it's. I really want to become much better at drawing robots. My friend Scott Circlin is amazing at drawing robots. Um, and that's sort of his, art persona. And then that's something I wanted to integrate into Human Art Studio. Was robots, and I haven't found my robot voice. Is what it comes down to. Um, Now, mind you, Scott is you could tell is heavily inspired by Jake Parker, who's Jake is amazing at drawing robots and vehicles and whatnot. Um, I'm inspired by a lot of sci-fi paint painters and artists and movie concept artists. But also, like, if you know Ashley Wood, and I believe Ashley, it's either um, ink wash or acrylic or watercolor, I forget what, but um, this is going on long. I hope you're enjoying it. But it's very exaggerated and simplified. So I like the extremes of a very detailed. It's almost anime. Like they know like every last nut and bolt that went into the robot. and they could show you a map of the inside, you know, or a more not symbolic, but just exaggerated, more like a fashion drawing kind of sort of. Um, so yeah, there's my robot, however weird it is. Then this is, it's totally awful face. But I loved sort of the fact that it's broken up and feathered like hell and shadowed like hell and almost like above his right eye, the left eye that we're looking at. Um, is I almost feel like that's inspired. Like my biggest inking inspiration has been Bernie Wrightson, and I feel like there's a little of that coming through. And if you look at like Dale Keown's work, um, you could also tell he's inspired by Bernie Wrightson. So here's some really horrible drawings, figures. Um, but again, just playing with light, um, heavy shadow, uh, and like I said earlier, like I'm just more like I'm drawing from the heart rather than from the brain. um, and sometimes I get it right, and sometimes I'm really off. Um, I want to do more like illustrations and really work on not only composition, but then work on getting the figures as accurate as I possibly can. And that means, accurate to what I deem I like and not like accurate to real life per se. And here's more of the craziness, just heavy shadow and heavy feathering and I really like I could pick out pieces of it and really run with that on a whole illustration, and make something very cool. So that's like I said, what that's why I keep stacking these around. This I think worked in some way. Um, and you can tell like the one eye is higher up than the other one. And this is completely off, but I love some of the cool effect of it. Definitely like the right side of it has some really interesting shadows and lighting, and even the left part brings some of that out. Um, so this is Shecember illustration number 2 that I thought I'd include in here. Um, and this is just something I made up, and it kind of worked out. I purposely gave her like not eyes of in shock, but something to that effect. You tell me what you think she's feeling or what. I don't know exactly. Um, but I love the shadow and it just really worked out well on her face, and I like it. It's not perfect. Like the eyes are slightly off, just a little bit. Now this piece, I had a ton of fun on this. I draw on copy paper, which is mostly why I'll never do a sketchbook video. Um, I consider copy paper my sketchbook. Mostly, the reason for that is I don't like having to draw over a lump in the paper. So with the copy paper, it's all flat, and that's my reasoning for that. But yeah, so this was a whole sheet of copy paper, so it's 8.5 by 11. Um, to where I went totally crazy and just you know played where I played, so it's kind of off center. Like his right shoulder is heavy, and um, it's like I got all the shadow there, and then the other is totally open. Um, then I went up to the face, and there's a lot more detail that got lost because I just kept going in with shadow and shadow and shadow. But I love the way the top of his head shines and sort of, feathering lines going down. And that's sort of why I created. It's almost like this smoke coming off the top of his head, and for whatever reason, I felt like I should put a bullet hole, uh, behind him, and that's why. Here's another head. Surprise, surprise. Sci-fi, because he has some gizmo connected to his head. It's okay. Yeah, nothing special. Some really nice shadows going on in there that I had fun with. Okay, so some bad figure work, some lame profile face, but I really, really, really love the almost straight on face. He's looking a little to the side. But I really love the line work on that one. It's all kind of rounded, and it really adds more dimension to his face, and that's something. Even though it was heavily stylized, it's a little of what Frank Miller was doing in his book Ronin. I really like that book for a lot of different reasons. But he is very experimental stylistically, um, and uh, Sin City came after. I believe all Sin City came after. I could be wrong, but really, like it was by diving into that kind of phase in his career that he came out with very bold Sin City style. And anyway, yeah, I really loved how that face came out, and if I could do more of that, it wouldn't be a bad thing. And I tried to replicate a little bit of that in the figure below, but not so successfully. More random sketches. Kind of like that little eye and side of nose, sort of in the center on the left. Um, Kind of reminds me of Walt Simonson effect a little bit. There's some good stuff there, but just trying to do a figure skeleton on the right. I kind of like the figure on the left bottom. You know, even though it's utterly wrong, uh, I was at least trying something. Then we get to this, and the face in the center is a little extension of that face previously. This one, the nose sort of disappears totally, um, and not such in a good way, but it's like I was either trying to capture the same feel or I was just experimenting in the same way and not as successfully. But you can get little pieces of that and do it right, and It's like you look at the, I guess, forearm on the lower left is what I was depicting there. And just to go from stalk shadow to feathering and molding, I just really love that stuff. The face above it, the face on the left, is a little mushed, uh, in many ways wrong, but there's some neat stuff going on there. And the one on top kind of reminds me of Swamp Thing, a little bit. Um, yeah, I really love the jumble of a face, bottom left, um, and mind you, let me just stop for a second. I wish there was a way with this program that I could have a little um, pointer, and maybe there is. Maybe I gotta figure it out, but that's what I'm just describing where things are. Yeah, I really love what's happening with the mouth, and that's reminds me reminiscent of Neil Adams, or definitely like Bill Sienkiewicz. And I know I've picked up my fair share from those guys. Um, I really on this page I really liked the face on the upper right. Not because a lot of it worked out, but something about what I did there makes it look really solid. And there's a little bit about that in the left profile face. Um, Although that's more about the just a heavy induced feathering. Uh, the one on the right seems solid. It really needs to be fixed as a face, but there's a lot about that I like. I might take somewhere else one day. Um, and here's some more drawings. Yeah, just really inspired to do like heavy blacks. And I kind of mentally figure like you know for comic work that if I'm going to do something like that, that will be uh, a bigger face on a page. Um, because you can't do tiny faces in comics, and plus when you color it and add word balloons, it has to be more like the the second face down on the left is just more outliney. Um, every once in a while, you could probably pick one face per page to really like go crazy on. And just more the same. Just heavy shadow, heavy feathering. I like a lot of what's going on in that. I'm starting to lose my voice. I think I'm getting towards the end. Hopefully, uh, going on an hour now. So yeah, it's pretty accurate face ish. The ears are off and the eyes are off, but not too bad. And um, I like the shadows, and of course, it's like I have fun just doing the side of the pencil shadow around, around the face and shoulders and whatnot. These were really fun, um, and it is good stuff within. I think the top face has a lot of potential. It's not, the eyes aren't accurate. Um, I really prefer, the left eye of the character. The one on the right. If I was able to duplicate that better, it would have been a more perfect drawing. There's a lot of good lines and shadow going on the face on the left. Um, I love it when it looks like it's carved from wood sometimes. Um, it's just preference. And maybe maybe my comic work won't have as much shadow as this stuff has, but this is me just pushing things to the extreme, just having fun, just doodling every day, and just you just naturally um, get better. Kind of like the face that's sideways, the face on the left on the bottom, the face center with the figure. It's kind of neat stuff going on, and even though it's out of proportion, the left face was kind of neat too. Just some more of the same, like the face on the left looks like some of that was carved out, and nothing too special. Okay, now here's some really neat stuff. Like I mentioned back when earlier, like Art Adams is really good at layering, feathering lines to where it's almost graphical, and I kind of like how I went, almost it starts at the cheeks and goes through his forehead and leads outwards and even is developed within the background itself and everything like it makes it look like there's action going on. And also like the figure that's sort of laying on the bottom. Um, I like a lot of those shadows, and even though the muscles are completely wrong, again, like this is almost me just totally exaggerating. This guy with horns, like his arm is like twice as big. It's just having fun with the neat shadows and how it almost like the figure falls into the shadows because everything isn't it doesn't have a hard outline. I love that effect and some neat effects on the other ones. Let's speed up a little bit. Yeah, there's some cool stuff there. I love this guy reminds me of somebody. I'm not sure who per se, but yeah, how the shadows on him seem to almost almost like you could see you're able to see through him to the shadows behind him. I love that effect. And this is attempt at a female, kind of a kind of a bulky arm, but there are a lot of female bodybuilders. I kind of love the muscles on the figure above and the shadows and lines on the bottom. I really like the guy in the middle, his old face chiseled. And I don't know, I was drawing a mushroom tree or something. And I got to do like on the very center left, you see just basic circle and line. It's like gesture drawing. I got to do a ton of that coming up. And here's some female face drawings. Just trying to draw more females. Really love the face on the right, some of the hard shadows. Um, I don't like it when I do a hard shadow on the nose and below the nose and on the nose to where you don't see sort of the outline of the nose to where it just blends in too much. Uh, I mean, sometimes it's okay, but yeah, yeah, went a little too far in that. But I love how like the lines, you know, of feathering sort of outline where the chin is, and then it's sort of open beyond that. I love that effect. Here's some more of the same. Just doodles, doodles. Nothing too great. Um, Here's a naked female. Um, yeah, obviously not using reference or anything, but there you go. Um, the face on the left, I like it a lot for certain things. It's mostly not a win, but there's some stuff I could pick out of it and bring to some other drawings. Uh, like, I, I really like the head with the figure. Uh, it's almost like he looks like an alien a bit, and I really love that. And like the sort of hard shadow on his cheek, and his mouth is almost a different piece. Uh, and just the overall feathering to where it goes all the way to his forehead. I really like that. It's a horrible drawing. The kind of profile face on the upper left is okay. It's not, after drawing a million faces that looked right, it's not as easy drawing a face that looks left. Um, if I map it out, I could do it, but just it doesn't naturally flow for me. And mind you, like here's something I'll point out. Like there are certain things you're going to be good at. Like drawing a certain way. Now I'm a left-handed person, um, but right-hand people have a certain lift to their lines, or if they're using a brush, um, that you know you gotta keep in mind, or to just like uh, it's kind of why like when I'm inking, I spin the page because my lines go a certain way and I go with the flow, and it's also like you really have to train yourself to draw flat. Now, mind you, I've haven't painted much in my life, so I haven't used the easel where you're not spinning the artwork. You just sort of, everything has to. But inking is like I spin the page and have lines flow a certain way, and that becomes more um, obvious, like when you're doing hair or a big figure work or big feathering on especially double page threads. It's like really have to chunk out the lines and you see what directions work better for you. This is you know maybe it's not 100% accurate, but it's kind of like some cool effect going on there. And even something like as this was a small drawing. I blew up a little bit, but something about that I really really love. And this is like it's not 100% accurate, and it almost turns into a kind of it's definitely like Morbius, but it's almost as well kind of like Bisley, to where it's a more exaggeration than accurate, and just having fun. I also like the sparse lines um, of the face, and that was always inspired by many artists, but like art books where you see just sparse drawings. That's more design work, and I consider them a lot of them finished drawings. And this was something, and I posted this one up. And I called it "Zombie in the Mist." It wasn't that I was sat down and said, "Okay, I'm going to draw a zombie in the mist." It was just something that happened by the way I feathered, and it looked like he was in mist, so I went with that. Now, mind you, it's like I wouldn't draw a zombie this way. A zombie is like it's falling a person that's falling apart, and he's not necessarily falling apart. It's just very hard shadows and sort of graphic lines going on in there. But he definitely, he definitely looks scary, and you wouldn't want to walk into him anytime soon. So I inserted this one for sure. This isn't necessarily a sketch, although this is another one that was a full page, and I didn't necessarily know what I was going to do. I was like, okay, I got to do a full figure, and I want to add some sort of background to it, and it's the simplest background possible. Um, but as I was drawing this, and obviously like the heavy clouds behind him so created a mood, and like his figure is leaning a little forward, and um, even though his hand is exaggerated and it looks a little big, and um, but it subtly created motion, um, and it spawned an idea as I was doing it, and I could literally create like three graphic novels out of just from creating this drawing. And it's something I'm very interested in doing, but we already have too much on my plate. Um, I was actually thinking, maybe I would present that as an idea to my brother, but we'll see, we'll see. And then this was, yeah, this is the last piece. Okay, finally. Um, this was actually, a photo that I just sketched out, and that's why it's more accurate. It's not 100% accurate, but it's playing with the lines a little bit. But I'm very happy with this one, and I was thinking about inking it, although I haven't enough on my plate, and you know, it's not that so utterly gorgeous of a drawing. I don't know. If you want to see me do an ink drawing of this, comment below. If you want to see me expand any drawing from here into a full size drawing, by all means, comment below. Go back and find it and give me the timestamp and just describe which one it is or whatever. Uh, yeah, I've done a lot of talking. Hope you got something out of it. And, I'd like to thank my patrons for their support. Um, I lost a patron because of, they were going a patron did an announcement they were going to change their payment something or another, how you pay or whatever, and a lot of people were up in arms about it, and then they backpedaled and said, oh, oops, we're not going to do that. I was sort of offline for the whole event, but anyway, I lost a patron, but hey, if you're not a patron, become a patron. um, I did a video uh, to where like my goal is to get 3,000 patrons, and I think I can. I have a lot in store for next year. A lot I'll be working on. And at the moment, I'm still trying to stay offline, um, and get a lot more accomplished than liking and commenting everybody else's stuff. I realize like I'm a content maker, and I'm not getting enough content made. So that's why all that jazz. So if you like what you've seen today, please like the video, comment, because your comments mean everything to me. And if you're really cool person, please share. I'll be back with parts 1 and 2 of my Shecember pieces. Um, and yeah, I'm not going to tell you exactly what days because I still got to get this video up. Yada yada. But if I don't talk to you before then, I hope you have cool plans for the new year. New Year's Eve. That's personally my favorite holiday. And of course, I hope you had a happy holiday. And yeah, I'm just randomly speaking. My voice is about to go. I need to throw some hot water down it or something. It feels like it's burning. Um, but I hope this was juicy for you. And I'll see you again next time. All right. Bye.